How's it going, everybody? It's the General Level Fox here. It's my channel where I talk about anime, video games, cartoons, most notably hedgehogs and Ninja Turtles. And today, I'm here to talk about Ninja Turtles. So, if you read this out of the video, you know what we're going to talk about today, and I'm going to talk a little bit about Sophie Campbell. Now, keep in mind, I kind of made this script, which I'm reading off a little script, so I got like notes and stuff so I can follow. But anyways, I'm reading off a script, so I kind of made this before I found out about the TMNT's comic book cancellation, which I'll probably talk about in another video, but for the time being I'm going to just talk about this because I wanted to get it out of the way. It's going to be a bit of a rant, so prepare yourself. Anyways, I still kind of hate the handle on and the direction of the IDW TMNT comics, mainly because the characters are written out of character, somewhat underutilized, and the writing is just bad. And as a fan, I recommend reading anything that doesn't have Jenica or Sophie Campbell's name attached to it, or anywhere in the place of the writer. I'm just telling you that right now. The writing has gotten a little bit better, but that's not saying much since the story is still terrible, like just overall. Luckily enough, this is Sophie Campbell's last story before she moves on, which is, in my opinion, very long overdue. They should have really just gotten her off a while, like years ago, to be honest. But unfortunately, she's taking Raph down with her, and if you don't believe me, I'll explain her hate boner for Raphael. So let's get into it. Alright, so I'm going to be telling you a little bit about Sophie Campbell's opinion real quick, or what are her thoughts and stuff, and what do I speculate. So this is mostly stuff that I've gathered from either her Twitter or her Tumblr and stuff, because she is online and whatnot, so you can definitely ask her some questions in case you want to know. And also, I'm taking examples from the writing and all that, so I'm not just pulling this out of baseless claims, okay? That's something I definitely don't do. Anyways, Sophie has said that Leo, Raph, and Casey are her favorite characters in the series, which I kind of find that hard to believe. I mean, she hasn't ruined Leo as bad except for shipping him with Koya, which I'm going to ignore that, them being a thing that's not a thing. Turning Casey into an alcoholic, and the constant downplaying of Raph. I get that sometimes you have to give these characters flaws or low points in their life so that they can kind of come back stronger than ever, but that's not the case here. When you're making comparisons to Raphael being an absentee dad, and that you get off on the fact that you like to just do the character dirty, that's just not a good characterization anyone wants to see or hear. And yes, these can be seen as jokes, but it seems to align with the misportrayal in the comics. I think I even read at one point that she was actually surprised by how Alopex and Raph haven't turned into be bigger assholes than they are now. Literally her words, not mine. Outside of this, she tries to write him as stoic, naive, childish, and immature. She's used him as to be a punching bag for Jenica and Alopex. She officially paired him with Alopex only to destroy that relationship for no reason, and is setting him up with Ninjara to also destroy that relationship too. She made him an unofficial cop where everyone kind of just complains to him and stuff, even though he did a lot of good as a vigilante though, so that doesn't make any sense. But because Sophie Campbell seems to be anti-cop, she kind of wants to write stories about it, so she uses Raph as that kind of as that little sock puppet pretty much. So that's pretty much how I think Sophie Campbell utilizes Raphael. Alright, so how did it start? So personally, I think the downfall started with Raph's fight with Casey. So just to recap, IDW Casey has lost both his parents. His mom passed away from cancer a while back. That was pretty much the beginning of the series, or at the before the beginning of the series. His mom passed away, and his dad kind of also died trying to save him in order to kind of redeem himself. So Casey kind of turned to alcoholism and had nobody to really shoulder on, which could have been a cool storyline if one of the Turtles or April helped him out of that depression. But since Sophie Campbell lacks creativity and stuff and didn't know what to do with Casey, apparently she dropped that, so whatever. Instead, things were kind of said when Raph found out, and it kind of carried up to a few issues until they had an uneventful fight that Jenica has to be the one to resolve by calling them immature. No hype was built, no cover page was made, and it just happens for no reason because the writer can't actually write. And if Sophie Campbell was a true Mirage Comics fan like she claims that she is, she would have known that Casey went through the same thing. And when he was kind of being a jerk to Donatello, for example, he didn't take it personally. He kind of beat his ass though for messing with him, but he understood what Casey was going through nonetheless. So what's unique about Raph and Casey's friendship is that it embodies male friendships, and that Raph has someone that he can like see himself in, like, you know, somebody that he like can share his hardships and stuff with, both having like lost their parents, both having unresolved feelings and anger, and both being like, you know, in relationships and stuff that ended because of bad writing. Okay, there's no drama occurring between them anymore, but what was the purpose of actually having this in the first place, like, than just self-sabotaging two great characters? Like, I just don't understand, you know. Like, I understand sometimes you might need some drama, you need to like shake up some things or whatever to create a little tension, but this didn't serve any like good purpose at all, or it didn't help better the characters or anything like that. So that's my major complaint to that. Raph can't catch a break, or he can't be happy. So at the start of Sophie's run, the Turtles were kind of grieving Master Splinter's death, and Raph channeled this through his crime fighting. Eventually he reunited with his brothers and started a relationship with Alopex and Mutant. Since Mutant lacked authority, Raph kind of volunteered to be like that for a time. While as constable, Raph was kind of shitted on, blamed for things that he had no control over, and apparently was spending less time with Alopex because he only cares about his job that he only had for a few issues, which that doesn't make any sense. And this was when Alopex's character started to also take a fall too, because she kind of blew up over like little things. Until eventually she left the Hamato clan over some petty shit. During the Armageddon games, Alopex left because Leo was willing to like work with the new Reform Shredder to save Earth, and while Alopex had more of a genuine reaction to distrust Shredder than everyone else, which, yeah, I was kind of a little bit against the idea of like them just like being like gun-ho for it, but out of respect for Master Splinter, of course, they wanted to work with Shredder and all that, or not wanted to, but they had to. But anyways, I'll get more into that later. But Sophie Campbell tries to frame the Turtles as if they're in the wrong, regardless of the world being at stake. And you see why I think that she thinks less of the character that she writes, because she agrees with this weird fucked up point of view. She also acts like Shredder killing Alopex's family is the worst thing he's ever done. Not when Shredder's killed the Turtles in their past life, killed both their parents, nearly killed them in their current life, ordered Bebop and Rocksteady to fatally wound Donatello, which led to his shell being destroyed, and brainwashing him and abusing Leo like he did Alopex. I mean, so honestly, it kind of takes a lot of like discipline and strength to like swallow your pride and work with like your abuser if billions of lives are at stake. If anything, Sophie Campbell kind of makes Alopex look weak-minded and selfish by backstabbing her own family and letting the world kind of just burn. Maybe this would, like, you know, this was done so that she can kind of have some kind of like her own agency outside of just being Raphael's girlfriend, by having like her own start, or like, you know, just having her start her own like Claw clan or whatever that she tried to do, which that was also a flop, and was Sophie's way of like kind of pulling the plug on like that relationship as a whole, which was developed for 11 years, by the way. And I'm supposed to believe that she can write like Ninjara, who's like allowed to like bring back like in the comics. She's dropped the ball on Venus, the Milo, she dropped the ball on Toka and Razar, the Mutanimals, Mona Lisa, Armagon, which somehow she gets an article on Screen Rant, claiming that she did the character justice because he was forgettable, even though he was in the 2012 series and stuff not too long ago, so I don't see how he can be forgettable. The only characters that I think that is salvageable are like the Punk Frogs, honestly, and that's about it. And as much as I like Ninjara, there's no place for her since like Alopex kind of already fills that void or that role. And if there was, I don't think Sophie Campbell will properly execute it, like I just said for these other characters. Jenica and Raphael's relationship is toxic. Now, I feel like this is really important to talk about, and this will go into like, you know, obviously the next subject. So the problem with the new characters in general is that like immediately like you kind of turn off the fans when like new characters talk down on or has a greater importance than their original character who's been around for over 40 years and stuff, you know. Now, I'm not saying like you can't have new characters in general inside TMNT or just anything in general, but I'm just saying that like just with anything, when you introduce like new characters and they're automatically like written to be better, like according to the story and the writers that they want to make it seem like, oh yeah, this character is so much more better than this character that's been established for so long, then yeah, obviously you're going to kind of turn away a lot of fans and stuff. They'll be like, no, that's bullshit, or they're not going to accept this new character. So, for example, like fans didn't like Venus appear, like when she appeared inside Next Mutation, right? when she kind of defeated the Shredder in like one of the first few episodes, and has like, you know, she was kind of made to look better like at first glimpse. But for Jenica, she's kind of just given the role as like an older sister, and without her like in a possible timeline, the brothers would have just became like, you know, they would have drifted and just became villains or something. So I've mentioned before that Jenica doesn't work because she's taken away from April's role as the older sister and Alopex's role as the fifth member. Two characters Sophie Campbell doesn't even know how to write because she kind of blasted, like she kind of, well, not blasted, she bloated the story with like majority female characters reoccurring. Like for example, Jenica, Sheena, Wanda, Lita, Carmen, Mona Lisa, April, Siri, Venus, Alopex, the Weasel Girls, which is 3, and Sally Pride. So that's like what, about 13 characters. And then outside of that, like, you know, a few like successors like love interest and older sister, like, or sister figures or whatever. Like, what purpose does like Wanda, Carmen, Mona Lisa, or the Weasel Girls serve? Like, I would even put Jenica and Sheena on that disposable bin as well. Like, what exactly, like, what purpose do they serve to the story? And as for the guys, like, that who she's like written or introduced as like reoccurring characters and stuff, we have like the Turtles, which that's a given. Casey, sometimes. Jay, Bob, Hob, which, you know, I already talked about how she likes to hate write old Hob, and Dr. Barlow. He seems like he's a decent villain, but he ain't like, you know, he ain't all that. But anyways, they hardly get any focus, or they get eclipsed by their female counterparts in a male demographic comic book. Anyways, Jenica has the most interactions with Raph, and to be honest with you, every time I see their back and forth, it kind of sacrifices Raph's character. For example, Raph gets into an argument with Jenica because he's heartbroken over Alopex still, so after that, Jenica kind of mocks Raph and he walks out, and then later Raph gets framed for murder because he was at the wrong place at the wrong time, and instead of just using his ninja training to escape police custody, or just calling Leonardo or April, who he knows better, and he can definitely like kind of like, you know, he knows that they can like delicately handle the situation. Instead, he kind of calls Jenica, or I guess he called Leo, but Jenica ends up answering since Leo wasn't around. But not only is this like Sophie trying to make Jenica seem more like she's in the right, like morally, but she's also embarrassing Raph, who's been through like worse in like this universe, like much worse than being detained by the police. Like, come on. Not to mention, her original idea was to have like Jenica like spring Raph from jail by beating up a bunch of cops, which is distasteful to me because, yeah, like that's just, those are innocent people just doing their job. But anyways, and now in one of the more like recent issues, Donatello travels to the future and meets future Leo, who recounts the last time that he saw Raph and Jenica. And in the same panel, he stated that Jenica left and started a family with her girlfriend, right? And as for Raph, he went missing after him and Yumiko broke up. And as a reminder, Yumiko is Ninjara's actual name, the same character Sophie Campbell was trying to reintroduce into the series in favor of Alopex, okay? There's a lot I can say about that dialogue, that Sophie Campbell is using her self-insert to like look better, or have a better life than Raphael in general. The fact that she's destroyed 2 of Raphael's notable relationships in spite of him, and that this kind of confirms that Sophie Campbell has no respect for the series because she kind of made it into her punk rock fantasy with the Ninja Turtle brand, and that she's like by far a narcissist in every sense of the word. And you're probably thinking to yourself, it's just fiction, or the next writer will probably fix it. You might be right. But the bad storylines and the bad press can lead to the stories getting canceled, like G.I. Joe and Transformers. And because of these like fictional stories, it's kind of given all types of like jobs as like artists, writers, actors, voice actors, etc. Not to mention the effort other people like Kevin Eastman or Tom Waltz and all the other talented writers and artists that kind of set up this universe, and it kind of gets undone by people like this who want to put their worst or their worst foot forward and can only write themselves. Like, come on. Who is IDW Raphael Hamato? Raphael is a reincarnated ninja reborn as a mutant turtle. After his mutation, he spent a year homeless and separated from his family, which plays a factor as to why he's so angsty or violent, because he's seen it on the streets. He meets his best friend Casey Jones after helping him defend against his abusive dad. Not long after that, he's presented with his family, who's been looking for him since his disappearance for a year. Of course, afterwards, Raph and his family get caught up with drama from their past life, fight ninja clans, save the world from alien invasions and gods, and it's also time travel. He's there for his brothers in good times and bad ones, and will remind them of who they are out of love. According to Master Splinter, his father, Raphael, has a lot more in common with him than any of his brothers, meaning he has the capacity to be wise, refined, and skilled. He shouldn't be compared to a deadbeat dad, or written like a complete joke. Now that Master Splinter is gone, Raphael should be displaying this characterization, and Alopex should be like his modern day Tang Shin to Raphael's Hamatsuyoshi. But for Sophie Campbell, she wants to write a story where Raphael is currently on a road trip. I don't really care unless she kind of soils him more, since she kind of had years to do this, and it sucks, and she just sucks at writing. I recommend that she just sticks to fan fiction and cover art, and just save these terrible story ideas for her own comic, okay? That's how I really feel. So, anyways, yeah. So that's just my interpretation. That's what I think about Raphael for the IDW comics and stuff. That's his story. This is his unique characterization. Sophie Campbell does not understand Raphael at all. Even if she is a fan of the Mirage or whatever, I still don't think she understands. She kind of ruined TMNT and stuff, like the comics at least, which has been ongoing since 2011, okay? That's like 13 years, and thanks to her, the story's getting canceled. Yeah, and I mean, I know you're probably thinking, oh, well, they're still going to kind of revisit this continuity and all that. Okay, but if they're kind of stopping the main series at 150, what's not stopping them from going all the way up to 200 or something, you know? What is this? So, yeah, that's my point. So anyways, so Sophie Campbell kind of just ruined it, or she kind of set the previous writer up for failure in that case, right? So anyways, that's the end of my video. I just wanted to talk a little bit about how I just think Sophie Campbell was ruining Raphael. I've already done a video kind of explaining everything as to why I don't like Sophie Campbell's why I don't like her run in general and stuff a little while back, but yeah, a lot of my criticism hasn't really changed since then. And yeah, I think she's getting a little bit better, but just because she's getting a little bit better, that doesn't help the story. Her writing does not accommodate the characters at all, especially not Raphael, not Old Hob, nobody, okay? So if you're a Ninja Turtle fan, do not, I recommend, I advise, just don't read Sophie Campbell stuff. If it's for you, it's for you. If you like it, it is what it is. Just, no. Hardly any action, just a slice of life. They do absolutely nothing. Armageddon Games was somewhat alright. It was kind of mid in my opinion, but I mean, shit, I would have taken that over what we got right now, you know. But anyways, yeah. But I'll probably talk more about the Ninja Turtles and stuff and the cancellation and all that. Like I said, I kind of made this script in mind before I learned about the cancellation or whatever, before they announced it. So I'll talk more about that later. But anyways, this is the Joning Level Fox, and I'm out. Peace, and until we meet again.
In the half shell going to war. Got the city under siege and they holding the fort. Got extra large pizza boxes all on the floor. Get sized up by a negative force. Your time's up on whatever you thought. Individual starving the floor. So the samurai swords on point for the cause.
Give me a
dangerous
break.
metals highlight the reign of terror. The twilight
Ready
meets
or
the
not,
rain of shredder.
here I come.
One and train together. The dark clouds in the strangest weather. Breaking news. The front line spray the ooze. No sunshine.
Easy peasy.